Okay, chapter 20, the legal answers in dispatching. We go through this, you're really going to be surprised at how liable your dispatcher, if you were a truck driver, how liable they actually are. are. And I've actually got some videos with actual lawyers going over this, and that's based on each state because every state can do their own thing. If it ain't federal government, then it don't supersede the state. But each state can make their own, let's say, kind of like mandates. I'm not going to say ordinances because an ordinance is based on the city, but a mandate for the state itself that it would be actually covering everybody in that state, depending on where that carrier, from my understanding, remember, I'm not a lawyer, depending on my understanding, wherever that carrier is licensed out of, where they're doing business out of, that's going to be where that's going to take effect at. So now, could it take effect nationally? I mean, like on it because you're doing OTR drivers? Possibly. I just don't know. I've never been in this situation. So some of this I've learned as I developed this course, and I'm trying to learn more about it. But you know how it is. I'm growing too. I'm finding myself learning stuff that even I didn't know. But understand the legal landscape and freight dispatching is essential for compliance, risk management, and effective operations. This chapter explores key legal concepts relevant to dispatchers, including the contracts, liability, regulations, and best practices for handling payment disputes and preventing double brokering. So they're trying to hit for double brokering, and you can't get hit for double brokering because you're not double brokering if you're going directly from the shipper. That I want to make clear straight up ahead. But anyways, let's get into the content, and we will go over this as we move through it. Now, steps on handling a non-payment by a broker. This absolutely happens. I don't care if it's double brokered or not. You can still get the money out of them. So this, and remember, you're taking this all from a perspective as a freight dispatcher. Now review your contract. Action. Start by reviewing the contract or agreement you have with the broker. Ensure you have met all terms and conditions stipulated in the contract. Now don't expect, I'm going to give you this one because it's on my head right now. Don't expect to get to a shipper. I know you're not responsible and it doesn't affect you to some degree, but you still get a percentage of everything. If you get a driver and let's say they get there and they're 15 minutes after scheduled appointment. Okay, now they're there for 8 hours. Whether it doesn't matter if it was a first come first serve or any of that, but if there was a time stamped on there that it needs to be here within these hours, let's say even it was on that day, it was the next day, still first come first serve, you didn't meet the terms of that agreement. Don't expect to get detention pay or layover pay. It will not happen. He's got the grounds based on that contract to deny you that. Okay, so make sure you get that one in your notebook because you're gonna need, because when you start dealing with your driver, you know how it goes. I mean, because I want my retention and my layover pay. And lots of times I still don't get it. It's not like I was late a lot of times, but it happens to everybody. But overall, when I was well within the grounds of what we had stipulated, which should have been the terms of me being there, I still didn't get the money. And so drivers do get abused. Um, in fact, they're getting ripped off. Now, reasoning behind this right here is this is going to be for understanding contractual obligations and payment terms is crucial to determine whether the broker is in breach of the contract. You want to get him in breach of the contract. Um, so resource, contracts, and agreements guide. So there is a guide that I've actually got the link on here for contracts and agreements that you can pull it up. I actually pulled a video. So because it's just easier for you to do as drivers going down the road. And so, obviously I would cover that, make sure you at least touch base on it. Okay, send a formal payment demand. So this is collecting, right? So action, draft and send a formal payment demand letter to a broker. Include details of the outstanding amount, invoice numbers, and relevant terms for the contract. Reason, a formal demand letter often prompts action and demonstrates that you are serious about pursuing the payment. Resource, simple payment demand letter. There is one in there. Look, I actually went through this and there's some videos in this chapter that you really are going to need to watch. I can cover them in here, but it take us forever, and it's going to give you actual visual content of what everything is. That you actually, if you set yourself up right, you won't have to worry about this. You can actually do it direct, whether it's a credit card or debit card, where it automatically debits it. Okay, you won't have to get to this point. Another way is if they're dealing with through a factoring company. Let's say that you're working for whoever, okay, and whatever carrier it is you're working for, and you set it up through their factoring company because you're an independent dispatcher. Because most of you are going to want to be independent dispatchers. I know you think, oh well, he's going to give me a job. Trust me, you're going to want to ditch them because you're giving them basically $30,000 to $40,000 more a year. If you're getting 4%, they're charging 2%. You take the, I mean, overall, you figure, you're doing 42,000 a week. That's $800 basically per week you're giving them. Okay, don't quite catch why you would do that, but I know you're learning and you'll get it figured out. But okay, but anyways, we'll go on with this. But the best way to do it is do it's like a direct draft on a credit card or debit card, or have it set up through the factoring service that they're using to automatically pay you when they send in the batch for the factoring service to buy those bills, that they automatically send you your money from the factoring company, goes directly to your account. That is the way to do it. Because with that right there, there ain't no chasing your money. It's there and it's a done story. Okay, and they can't just stop it neither. It don't work like that. So, anyways, file a complaint with the broker's licensing authority. Now that'll definitely get his attention. Okay, action. If the broker is licensed, file a complaint either against the agency. So you're not looking for the freight agent. You actually did business through that brokerage. So anyways, file a complaint with the regulatory authority that oversees their licenses. Example, like the FMCSA or the State Department of Transportation. Reasoning, regulatory authorities can investigate complaints and may take action against brokers who violate industry regulations, okay? And they definitely do. So make sure you have that tool. Now, obviously, I'd go straight back to the shipper too, because you got the bills. I'd file one with the shipper because they're going to get a hold of the broker. Hey, we had this load paid for. Why have I got this individual saying he's billing us and invoicing us for money on a load that was that we sent through you? So there's more than one tactic of handling this. All right, utilize mediation or arbitration action. If your contract includes a mediation or arbitration clause, initiate this process to resolve the dispute. Don't go, in fact, I charge them a fine. Okay, don't just settle for what they owe you. Make them because you had to work to get your money. Reasoning, mediation, and arbitration are often faster and less costly than litigation. Litigation is actually where you're going to small claims court or whoever it is and trying to recover funds. Resource, you can look at the American Arbitration Association, which is the AAA, and mediation services. They're out there. I was going to put some links in here, but that's more information than you need to know as a dispatcher, because I don't want to lug you down with too much, because I'm teaching you everything about dispatching. But if you don't look those up, they're easily, there's YouTube videos on them, and then there's actual organization web links to these organizations. Now, what you don't want to do is have to file a lawsuit, okay? Now, action, if other methods fail, consider filing a lawsuit against the broker for breach of contract. Consult with a lawyer specializing in commercial or transportation law, okay? You really don't want to do that. Sometimes it's not worth what you're getting out of it. Because sometimes you can't get the fees for what they're having to do. It just depends on how everything was set up. Reasoning, legal action can compel the broker to pay if they are found to be in breach of contract. And then obviously find a commercial lawyer. I wouldn't really do this one. I would definitely try to get something done before you get to this point. Now, we have to be talking about some serious money before I get to this point. I would rather go with the person that holds his license as being a broker. Those are going to be the things that affect his business directly. So make sure you understand your contracts and stuff when you're dealing with a brokerage. Now, remember, the credit agencies, if they got bad credit, they won't, factoring services won't buy their bills. So this is definitely another way to catch their attention. So action, report the unpaid debt to commercial credit reporting agencies. Reason, report can impact the broker's credit rating and pressure them to resolve the payment issue. Resources, this is going to be factoring services where you can do this. This is our actually credit services. This is done in Bradstreet. I've never used them. I don't even know who they are. I'm used to the Experian and stuff like that. But this is going to be for business credit reports. You file them there, they're going to worry about it because it may wipe them out from anybody loading out their freight. Now you can seek collection services. Just remember there's laws that actually kind of stop some of this, that they don't really have to acknowledge this. But You know, you can consider getting one of these agencies that they'll go in and they'll actually try to collect the debt, and whatever they collect, they get a percentage of it. Effective strategies for payment disputes. Now, understanding the disputes with brokers. Payment disputes with brokers can significantly challenge dispatchers. When a broker refuses to pay or delays payment, it is crucial to address the issue promptly and legally. Yeah, you can do it promptly and legally, but I don't care about the promptly and legally. You need to get that money. That's owed to you. You did you spent your time loading those trucks out. What if you've done 2 weeks of loading those trucks out and you haven't got paid? Now you're talking about real numbers. Okay, because what he says, well, I didn't send it to factoring yet. Oh, I didn't send it to factoring yet. And then he holds them, he sends them all to factoring in one time and then dips out on you. Okay? Remember, there's two sides to this sword. Always think about what they're thinking of too. Make sure you can trust the people you're doing business with for starters. Run their credit. Try to get references, who they've dealt with. Ask friends, have you ever dealt with this person as far as the brokerage? Now, obviously, this should be easy for you to do because you should have kept everything. But your documentation is everything. Collect evidence. Keep your records, all the stuff you've been dealing with the broker, the emails, the contracts, and details of the load. Keep detailed records. Maintain copies of all invoices and proof of delivery. So that means you've collated it. Remember, you got the load confirmation and rate confirmation, and then your POD. Then that's basically everything says you did the job. Obviously, you'll have the witness of the driver that did it as well, because he'll have his signature on the paperwork, and the receiver. So review your contractual obligations, identify clauses related to payment terms and dispute resolution. Make sure these aren't clipped off. Make sure you know what you're dealing with when it comes to this. Understanding your rights, know your legal rights, and the broker's obligations. You do have legal rights. This is a business. You do have a ground. Thank goodness it's the Mississippi. I mean, it's the United States. At least in the United States, the law, to the most part, does work. Communicate with the broker. Initial contact, reach out and discuss the payment issue directly. They might settle it then, or it might just be, smoke. They're playing games. And if you have any whatever, go and start proceeding forward. If you don't know them, don't play games with them all. If you know them, you've dealt with this in the past, you take it whichever way you see that being more feasible. Now, formal demand. If informal communication fails, send a formal demand letter. Make sure that it is certified, everything on there that there is, that it was received, you got tracking numbers on stuff, they received it, they signed off on it, and everything, that they received your billing claim. This is going to be another saving grace. FMCSA has a whole thing in there about your rights, so make sure you look that up. And if you get to that point, if you're having to fight for a claim with a broker or even a shipper. Seeking mediation, arbitration, you can go through this means, all it is really, that's what it is. It's a mutual third party. And they are, in other words, if you say something to them, you're going to want to probably put your hands on them type of deal. But these people will go in, keep the peace, and try to recover the funds. Obviously, they get paid for it. No, nobody do nothing for free. Legal action, consultant and attorney, that's going to cost you money. And file a lawsuit, that's even going to cost you money. You got court cost and all that other stuff attached to this. But whichever one you feel like you got to do, depending on how you feel about it and what they owe you. Now remember, the FMCSA, you're actually going to be going under the broker regulations, ensuring that they're operated transparently, and they fulfill their obligations. TQL got hit because they were actually double brokering freight. Actually, they were broken one where they were taking so much off of it, it was stupid. But it was a trucking company, and they didn't want to disclose their records. But the FBI got involved. I have no idea, but they actually went in there and got the documentation to show whatever that trucking company needed. So, don't brokers think they're untouchable? They're not. I don't know where they even got that idea, but you can get to them. Everybody can be gotten to them. We live in a system, and when no one in a system, that's the best thing about a system. A system can be broken because it's a system. It don't move very far. It's pretty much static, and you can poke at it from where you need to poke at it and make it open up and get what you need out of it. Brokers' financial responsibility on these guidelines, they have to maintain a surety bond, and this is what you're going to be filing again, whether it's the surety bond or the trust bond. I'm not sure what the difference between the trust bond, but that surety bond, that's what you're going after, and that's going to be what's going to mess them up, because they get this revoked, they're in trouble. This covers a lot of stuff, the surety bond for a broker. Regulatory compliance, It oversees the broker's compliance and can impose penalties for violations. It's probably not going to get nothing on it, but it definitely exists. You got to be somebody that's probably habitually doing this for them to actually step in and do that. Complaint process. You do have the right to file complaints against non-compliant brokers. That information is actually on their site where you can file the complaints. And that's the federal government. So, I don't know how long it takes, but you remember, it's always going to take time, but you can file against them. And, um, and uh, whether you want to let them know or not, put it out there. Say, if you don't pay the funds, I'm going to file you with the FMCSA, but they could just go out of business. If they're up to some dirtbag stuff, they could be wiping everybody out. But look on the other media, social media sources and kind of see if you can find out anything about that company. That's the reason you got to check that credit. That's just the first thing you do. Let's go back to the basics. Check that credit. Look at their reviews, whatever it takes. If you don't know who they are, don't just jump on board because they got a load that you want. Sometimes loads that are really good are also really big setups. Preventing and handling double brokering in the trucking industry. This one I'll take straight back to the shipper. I mean, I already know what I would do. But anyways, understanding double and broken. Double brokering occurs when a broker rebrokers a load to another broker or carrier without the knowledge of the shipper. This can lead to a loss of revenue and legal complications. Definitely. Say if you're a actual dispatcher dealing with a shipper, that's not double brokering. Now, this double broker could be another broker or somebody else, like a carrier or a dispatcher. It doesn't matter. And then you're still selling it off to another person. So that's double brokering. In any form or fashion, that's double brokering. Now, strategies to prevent double brokering: verify broker credibility. You got to run their credit, look for them, look at the reviews, whatever it is. You need to find out who they are. Check the broker authority, verify the broker's license status using the FMCSA. I don't know what the L&I is. I've never used it, but I just look on the Safer Web and it tells me if they're active. Confirm bond status. This one I would do. Ensure that broker has an active and sufficient surety bond. So make sure he can cover whatever is going on with the freight you're carrying. And at the end, no matter what happens, you'll get paid. Now, conduct thorough background checks. Company reviews. Look for reviews on platforms like Transport Topics and Dat Load Board. Yeah, that Load Board is a pretty good one, dependable, that you can look at and find out information on them. Contact references. Ask for references and follow up with them. Yeah, most people are not going to follow up with these references. Let me be straight. I've been in the office long enough. They're not going to do it. We're moving too fast. But if you're, as an independent freight dispatcher, I would do it, because you're not in the position where you can take a lick. You're in a bigger dispatch office and you got loads coming and going. You can absorb it because there's more money to cushion it. It doesn't mean that it's justifiable. Okay, you still need that money, but keep that in mind when you're doing this. All right, this is going to be common knowledge, but we're going to go over them anyways. Using technology, that's going to be for verifying. Confirm the load details, absolutely. Make sure all the paperwork's there, it's all in order, because that paperwork you may have to lean back onto it to actually get the money. Avoid working with suspicious entities. I don't care, man. If you don't know who they are, anything like international brokers, I wouldn't. And red flags: be wary of unusual payment terms or reluctant. If it's outside the norm of what I'm doing day to day, I'm not gonna mess with them. I can find something else. Implement contracts and agreements, written agreements, and legal clauses. You need to ensure that you have written contracts. If it ain't right, it didn't happen. Okay, if it ain't right and it didn't happen. If it is not in writing, it did not happen. I hope that sunk in. So, and also legal clauses include clauses to protect against double brokering. Most companies that are brokerage, they actually have that in it going toward you, that you're not going to take that freight and you're going to double broker it. So it's in there. Not saying that they may not still pull something, you just don't know, but if at least if it's in the paperwork, no matter which end, at least it's there. You can use it as means to defend yourself if you have to go to litigation or any point, even if you're doing it with the FMCSA or whoever you're going to choose to file claims with to hopefully recover the funds. Handling payment disputes and legal resources. This is just going to be a list of resources. Ain't no sense in going over this. It's basically what we've been talking about is just list them in the order, and you can use these people to go through. And every one of these are feasible, good ones to go through. I wouldn't do the attorney. That would be more of my last ditch. The debt collections, man, I don't even know if I'd mess with that. I pretty much will. I'd send somebody out there to handle it. This guy, this don't have a lot of leg to stand on. But definitely the FMCSA and the surety bond, that's going to be your best two bet. I mean, the best bets as far as using those two. Okay, we got a scenario. Okay, a dispatcher notices that a broker has not paid for a load delivered 2 months ago. You should have known before that because you're watching for the funds to come through. After receiving the contract, they send a formal demand letter leading to a discussion that clarifies an administrative area on the broker's part. The payment is received shortly after. Yeah, that's just saying that's exactly what we're talking about. So in other words, the way he resolved this one is he actually did a formal letter. So for the formal demand letter, that pretty much resolved the issue, got paid. Okay, another scenario, a dispatcher finds out that a load they were handling has been double brokered without their knowledge. They clarify the original contract and contact the shipper. So they got to verify the original contract and they contact the shipper, leading to the original broker taking action against the unauthorized broker. That's right, because they don't want to lose their customer. So that broker, whoever the original broker is, doesn't want to lose that customer base. And whoever this other broker is, or whatever, any of the carrier, whoever it was, they obviously, whatever they did to them, they probably charged them extra money, threatened them, filed something against them, or whatever they did. But at least it took the responsibility off you. But you got to make sure you get paid. Who cares about what he's taking, whatever against them? Um, you want to get paid. And each because I can't give you enough in depth on this. I'm sitting here thinking about it. It's going to depend on what else was going on with that paperwork. The storyline is straightforward, but there's some moving parts behind that you can actually charge more money. I mean, like say if you got delayed in payment, charge late fees, whatever you need to do. You have policies just like anybody else has policies. And if not, then go tell them, hey, I'll go to your surety bond, whatever which way you want to play that card. Just remember you're building relationships with that brokerage as well. I'm not saying they could care less the next time you call them, but play the card the way you feel best for you. All right, on our conclusion, after exhausting all other options, a dispatcher files a lawsuit against a broker whom has failed to pay despite repeated requests. With detailed documentation and legal counsel, they win the case and recover the owed funds. They may have recovered the owed funds, but it better have been a lot because they had to pay a bunch of money out to lawyers and court costs, all kinds of other stuff just to recover that money. And just because you get a judgment doesn't mean you have the money. They can still turn around and declare bankruptcy and you're still out there and you didn't get nothing. Okay, conclusion, navigating the legal aspects of dispatching requires diligence and a proactive approach at all times. You've got to be proactive. That means before it happens. Look at everything that you should have looked at before it happens. By understanding contractual obligations, leveraging the FMCSA guidelines, and implementing best practices to prevent double brokering, dispatchers can effectively manage risk, in other ways, mitigate them, keep them from happening, and ensure their operations run smoothly. This is going to be your best bet. That's the one that's going to be where it's going to save you at. Okay, now it says thank you for listening, so I appreciate it. Anybody got any questions concerning these matters, please let me know. We can go more in detail. There's some great videos I put in here to help you understand more about each of these topics, and also put in the ways to make sure you get paid without having to do any of this. Especially if you're going to dealing with the brokers is one thing, but remember, even when you're dealing with the brokers is one problem, but dealing with your carrier is another if you're an independent dispatcher. So the broker is still getting, well, most parts getting the carrier paid, but you need somebody to get your money from them. So make sure you do a direct draft, or you do a direct draft will be on the credit card or debit card, and then obviously also you can do a deal where you're going through the factoring service where they're paying you direct. That would be your best bet when it comes to that side. But when it comes to the broker, that's what this is covering mainly.